Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Hello and welcome to our third session of the Scholarship 101 program. My name is Eric Nianyeto Donko. I'm really excited to welcome you all to today's session and on a very important topic for everyone pursuing academic and scholarship opportunities. We're going to be looking at crafting like a strong CV and how to write a really good statement of purpose. We have our facilitator on the call with us today. And today we'll be looking at the storytelling part of applying for admission or securing a scholarship. These two documents we are going to talk about today, or our speaker is going to help us understand more about today, tells the story of who you are. And to be able to do this, you have to be precise. And because you wouldn't be in a room or have lots of space, or even time to tell your whole story. So whether you're applying for a scholarship, graduate school, or a research opportunity, your CV and statement of purpose are often like the first impression you make, so they speak for you, basically. Richmond, hello to you.
I'll start with just some basic principles on academic CV. I just want you to have a look at this document that I have projected. This is a template of a CV that we mostly use at Career Wheel. This template, I have named it a job resume or a job CV. You have a look at it. Later, I'll show a different template and I would ask for the differences between the two. So if you are here, kindly take a good note of the content on this CV and we will come back to it later on. Now, before I continue, we need to understand what a CV or a resume is. Most often people interchange the names, whether a CV or a resume. Some people would call it a resume, others would say a CV. Personally, I don't see any difference between the two, but some professionals have actually found a distinction between the two. Some say a resume is just a summary of your relevant experiences and your academic qualifications for a particular role or scholarship or whatever you're applying for. And a CV just generally talks about everything about you, professionally, of course, and academically. But I feel those two can be used interchangeably. So that is what a CV is. And at Career, we believe that every CV has three main parts. That is the structure, the content, and the context. A lot of the times, people focus on the structure more, forgetting the content and the context. You can't have a CV structure without the content. Same way, you can't have a context without the content. With saying that, that means the most important aspect of a CV is its content, not the structure. When we say a structure of a CV, is basically how the CV looks. So from how it is aligned, from the font type you used, the font color, the arrangement on the CV, how neat the CV looks, right? How aesthetically pleasing it looks. That is mostly what we focus on. But newsflash, that is not what gets you in. So whether you're applying for a scholarship or a school or even a job, it's not how nice your CV looks that gets you in. It's rather what it entails. That doesn't mean that your CV should look any way or anyhow. We'll come back to it. You will realize that the structure is also very important. Fun facts, it's actually the first thing that gets people to want to read your CV. Research has shown that recruiters spend less than 10 seconds to decide whether to read your CV or not. And that is based off the structure. So in as much as we keep saying the content is the most important part, the structure is equally important. But the other part, which most of us and which we will be focusing more on, is the context. I know most of us have heard tailor your resume, tailor your CV, tailor your CV, tailor your CV. That is basically you contextualizing your CV. Most people will do spray and pray. What that means is that, yes, Eric.
Sorry, Richmond, or sorry, Richie, like you said. Sorry to interrupt, but it looks like people are really, really like excited about what you're talking about. But they would also appreciate to see the sample job resume that you are showing to us. So they would love to see it much bigger. So if you would like to like reshare, but you could still keep talking, but I just wanted to bring it to your attention in the chat.
Don't worry, I will definitely share. There will be two different templates that I'll share with you guys, both the academic template and the job template. So I'll share this after the call. As I was saying, the context is also equally important, and we will be looking at how we can contextualize our academic resume for a particular program and scholarship that we are applying for. Now, there's a story we normally talk about at CareerWheel. Basically, every client of ours that come in has heard of this story. We call it the shovel versus wheelbarrow. What this basically means is, let's say you are a construction worker, right? And you have a need. You need, you are building a house. You have a project that you are embarking on. So you are building a house, and to complete it, you need a shovel, right? And you go to the shop to buy a shovel. Now, this salesperson or whoever is working at the shop tells you that, oh, unfortunately, we don't have a shovel. However, I believe there is an amazing wheelbarrow which would be of very good importance to you, you being a construction worker, right? And they try to make you buy the wheelbarrow. But the first point is you came there in need of a shovel, right? And now this person is trying to sell you a wheelbarrow. But the whole idea is you need a shovel and nothing else, just a shovel, not a wheelbarrow. Possibly you have a wheelbarrow already. I just want to hear from one or two people what they would do in this situation. Eric, do we have any hands up? Or if the comments are coming, you can.
Yes. So Isaac says, I would insist on getting a shovel.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And Kojo also says, I will go to another shop for the shovel. Linda said, I will look for a shovel somewhere else. And Pearl says, I won't buy it. I want my shovel.
Thank you. Thanks for all the submissions. Basically, that's just the truth. That is what I would do. I'll either tell the person, why are you trying to insult me? I came here for a particular purpose. Why are you selling a different thing to me, right? Or I'll move on to a different shop to where I'll get what I need. News flash, we basically do that with our job hunt and our scholarship hunts. So here is the scenario. You see a scholarship, let's say Chevening. Chevening tells you that they are looking for future leaders. Basically, that is what Chevening is looking for. Chevening is looking to have people that are community impact oriented, right? People who showcase, who have evidence that they can make impact, have leadership qualities, they are able to build relationships. When they get access to the scholarship, they can leverage the community to make greater impact in their country and across the world. That is Chevening's mission. That is what they are looking out for. It's a scholarship you want to have access to, right? But guess what? You go there and you start talking about how your childhood was very stressful. You start talking about your academic excellence. Yes, your academic excellence is good, but you are selling to the wrong audience. Chevening has a particular purpose. They have a particular requirement, right? So people have third class that want Chevening scholarships. People have second class that want Chevening scholarship, right? It's all about you being able to sell what they are willing to buy. It's the same for jobs. They say they want a project manager, and you want to tell them you're a social media manager, so they should buy you. Those two are both managers, right? But it's a different purpose. So that is the shovel and wheelbarrow story, right? Now let's look at some of the rules that at Career we believe are very critical in building good CVs, whether academic or job, right? Now, first, content over aesthetics. Remember when I spoke about this part of a CV, I mentioned the structure, the content, and the context. We call this one the 90-10 rule. 90% of your focus should be on the content of your CV rather than the structure, which in other words is the aesthetics, right? 10% aesthetics will give you 100% score. But most of the time, the content is what is the most important part. Secondly, context matters. A job description or a scholarship description, a scholarship requirement page, the eligibility criteria, it's your marking scheme. You can't build a CV in isolation. Remember I mentioned that we mostly do spray and pray. Oh, I have this scholarship. Oh, I remember I had a CV there. Let me just send my CV. Is your CV for the purpose of the scholarship? So context, tailor your resume, tailor the CV to the scholarship. Erasmus Mundus want to focus on academic excellence. That is the purpose. They want people who are academically good. So if you have a third class, Erasmus Mundus is not for you, right? That said, there are other scholarships that if you have a third class and you have had community impact, you can focus on. So in this way, you don't put so much eggs in one basket, or you don't diversify so much that you lose focus. You know what you are looking for. You know what it entails, what they are looking out for. You go for it. You assess yourself to see, do I qualify for this? Then you go for it. And that's way you are able to mark yourself when you are putting your CV up. You contextualize your CV to fit whatever they are requesting for. And that's why I'm saying that the eligibility criteria, the description is your marking scheme. So that is the second rule. Content over aesthetics 90-10 rule, context matters, the job description or the scholarship description is your marking scheme. Thirdly, results sell more. Use numbers. Let me give you a typical example. If I should say I run a company, right? And someone says I run a $2 million company. Roughly, everyone will go for the person who said they run a $2 million company. Why? Because they have added more juice to what they said. And the juice was in the number they put there. So results, they sell more. If I tell you I'm able to work with teams, right? Let's say Shivin is looking at someone who makes impact, right? Someone who is a leader. And I tell Shivin that, oh, in my past experience, I was able to influence a team of 20 to have a change in, let's say, a particular approach that we were working. I've given Shivin a context, right? Let's say I tell them, oh, that at the end of the day, the team of 20 saved the company, say, 100,000 cedis in a month. Now, I told Shivin that I can influence 20 people. I was able to influence 20 people. And that is a sign of a good leader, your ability to influence, even without a leadership position, right? So you are able to influence. Secondly, you did not just influence, you caused a change that brought in a result for whoever it is, whether a customer, a company, or whatever it is. And when you read the description for Shivinin, basically that is what they talk about. When you are writing your leadership essay, they speak about your ability to influence and create a change that is beneficial to not just yourself, but other people. So just a simple story, just a simple thing you've been able to sell. So results sell more, so you have to use the numbers. Now, someone will look at, I'm putting together my CV. If I'm thinking about results, then I should always think about the end goal. Very good. The end goal is very important. Let's use this particular webinar, for example, this particular session. Let's say, dear young graduates, have an agenda. Their end goal is that at the end of the day, 10 of the attendees from this session are able to get access to scholarship opportunities, or they are able to secure $1 million in scholarships. That is the end goal, right? It doesn't mean that along the way, the successes, the milestones that they cop should be forgotten. So whoever is the program lead here, although the end goal is that at the end of the day, 10 people should secure 1 million scholarships, they would think about how many people attended one. What was the session about? Was the session successful? All these things are milestones. Oh, we were able to put together a program outline. We were able to organize the session. We were able to secure people to attend. We were able to stream it across Facebook and also on Zoom. These are milestones, right? And these are equally as important for your CV. So at the end of the day, how many people attended? Oh, 100 people attended. What did you do to make the 100 people attend? You list them. Those are the milestones. So milestones are as important as ultimate results. In as much as it will be beautiful to say, oh, 10 people secured $1 million in scholarships. It's all equally beautiful to say 100 people attended the webinar. So next rule, no man is an island. So when you are building your bullets, most often people will focus on what they did, forgetting that there are other things other people did to make their work successful. Or maybe they were able to help. Let's use those people in operations, operations officers, administrative officers, right? People, let's say you help the sales team. A sales team is on the field. They need data or information on a particular client, else they will lose a sale, right? Now you're able to gather that data, send to them immediately within, say, 5 minutes. They use that data to speak to the client. They convince the client, and the client is able to, they are able to secure a sale of 1 million cedis from that client. Please, you played a role in that sale, right? But the action you took will be different. So the sale people will go ahead to say, oh, we're able to convince a client to bring in a $1 million sale. Brilliant. But admin officer, you compiled a data that was given to the sales team to be able to convince the client, because without your work, they wouldn't have been able to do their work. So no man is an island, count shared successes. So whatever role you play in a particular success, your role matters. So add that as your achievement as well. Now, the other thing is the resume is just a piece of the puzzle, especially for we that we are looking at scholarships. You write your essays. When you are applying for Chevening, you have to apply to the school. The school will ask for your transcript. The school will ask for your statement of purpose. The school will ask for a couple of documents, right? The CV is also part of the things. Now, Chevening will ask you to write 4 different essays, 500 words each, right? So the CV is just a part of the puzzle. It's not the only thing that matters. It's just a part. Because even when you make it through the first stage, some scholarships, you go through interviews. Some people apply, they go through the first stage, and they don't make the interview. So the fact that you have a great CV or a great resume doesn't mean you are automatically going to get the scholarship. The CV just gets your foot in the door. There are other things you have to do. You have to do your research, read about the scholarship, understand the scholarship, so you can prep for the interview well. Moving on, what we've realized over the past 5 years working as coaches is that most often, a lot of people do not know what counts as experience, whether job experience, whether research experience. They don't know what counts as experience, right? Now, let's look at this. Any activity that involves you applying your skill is an experience for you, right? For instance, let's say I am applying for a scholarship that has to do with public speaking, right? The fact that I've been able to be a speaker on this webinar, that is public speaking. I should count this as an experience. This is not a paid gig. This is not something that I'm doing in my day job, right? This is not something that I do for my 9 to 5. You get it? 9 to 5, I'm a project professional, right? So it doesn't mean that the fact that I'm not doing this on a regular, it shouldn't count as an experience. So anything, whether it's in the church, in the house, anything that requires you to apply your skill is an experience. Document that. Now let's look at this. So whether paid or unpaid, whether formal or informal, it's an experience. So I'm using myself as an example. I'm a project coordinator. That's my 9 to 5. That's my main source of income. Now I help someone as a research intern as well. So if I'm applying for a scholarship, any scholarship that has to do with research, I am going in because I am helping with research here, right? This particular thing is something I opted to help the person with. It's not something that the person said, oh, apply and help me. No, I just said, oh, this is your research. I want to assist you. So it doesn't mean I should just ignore that, right? Now, so if business have been founded, let's say the business is very important for my business school application, my MBA scholarship. It's very important. You have the experience because if you're applying for an MBA, the purpose is that you should be able to implement the strategies in a business setting. And you're already running a business. You're a founder. So that is an experience. A lot of founders do not include that as part of their experiences. A lot of founders do not do that. A lot of business owners do not see that their business is an experience for them too. So from today, if you have a small business, your mom's business that you are helping her run, please, you're a co-founder. You didn't hear this from me. Now, the last thing is you're a social manager for the church's social media account. You have been posting nice captions, nice content, racking your brain, crafting content, posting it every Sunday to get members to attend church. Please, that is you applying your skills. It's an experience for you. Recently, I engaged a client who was applying for a marketing degree, a master's in marketing. And when we went through his experiences, he has no research experience, he has no teaching or consulting experience, but he's had a lot of experience helping church with marketing. And he was like, oh, but it's church. I'm like, Charlie, it's church, but you applied your skill, right? And that is very important because your marketing skills that you've applied at church, you helping them with social media, digital marketing, it's very important for the school. You have to show them that you are someone who has already even taken the steps to do digital marketing. So you will be, people think the school is just looking to bring you in because they need you. No, the school need people who will be beneficial to the school as well. We will get that when we are talking about the statement of purpose. So all these count as an experience. Now let's look at this. Let's look at bringing out a resume content. Remember, we said the content is the most important. The structure will come. The structure is just a template, right? But the content, that's where you have to think a lot. Now at Career, we will develop 3 different frameworks to help you build a very good resume content. First, you have to ideate. Before you bring out your content, you need to understand whatever you are applying to, right? Now, how do you bring out the content? That is what we call the WHW framework, the what, how, why framework. Now, that is the point you have to ideate. First, you ask yourself, what did you do? What tasks did you even perform in line with what the requirements are asking for, right? How did you do it? The skills, strategies that you used to actually perform the task that was requested of you. Now, why did you perform that task? That is the end game, the results. Remember the resume rules, we said results matter. Impact is very important for whatever action you take. So why did you do it? Let's look at a typical example. What did you do? This is for a medical professional that I helped put together an academic CV for. And good thing is she got a scholarship she was applying for. I got so excited last week when she mentioned this to me. So one of the things that we did for her is to take her through the what, how, why approach. She came to us with a CV, which was not great for the school she was applying to. But now we have to, there were things listed. There was a program she was applying to. There were things listed that they expect you to have done, right? They expect you to project through your resume and your other documents. Now we asked them, let's look at the requirements. They expect you to do A, they expect you to do B. Now, the first thing was they were expecting her to be able to provide support, like a professional who has been providing support for patients. And the end game is that they want you to be able to demonstrate that you will be able to improve healthcare outcomes. People in the professional, medical healthcare professionals will understand what outcomes mean. So that is the what. Now, how has she demonstrated this? She said that she's conducted antenatal screenings, stratified patients by risk levels, and also implemented preventive measures. That is how she's been able to support patient care. Why did she do this? The end goal is that the school doesn't know why you did the action. You need to tell them. The why is what makes you stand out. They know that every medical officer knows that, oh, when you are in the antenatal, you have to do screenings. You have to stratify patients by their risk levels. So high risk, medium, low risk. You don't just mix them. You have to differentiate them. They have been trained to do this. But what differentiates you is your ability to tie this to an outcome, a why. So the why is that she wanted to reduce maternal and fetal complications. That is why she did all this. Now, she's been able to bring out this information. How does she put these three things together to form a bullet? This is why Career will also developed another framework that we call the SAS framework. So we use this to build the bullets. Now, the SAS framework has three parts. The first thing is the success. That is the quantified results, right? The second part is the actions taken. What action did you take? And if you would recall, that would be tied into the how in the WHW framework. So you see, you have the success, which is linked to the why, the action, which is linked to the how, and then lastly, the skills, which is mostly, you will find it in the tools you used, the strategies you used, the methodologies you used. For instance, if I'm talking about, I'm building a bullet for this particular workshop, I'll say that the skills that I've used is I've been able to present this, this presentation, this training through a Zoom webinar. So I've demonstrated my ability to use a Zoom, and I've demonstrated my ability to present in a webinar. That's a skill, right? So using skills or tools, strategies, frameworks, methodologies, right? So if you build a CV using the SAS framework becomes the last S part, the skills. Now, let's look at the example earlier. This is how the bullet is going to look like. No, the success would read reduced maternal and fetal complications by 70%. Brilliant. Remember, numbers matter. So you are telling the admission board that you reduce maternal and fetal complications by 70%. Excellent work. How did you do that? The actions you took. By collaborating with cross-functional clinical team to conduct antenatal screenings, stratify patients by risk levels, and implement preventive measures to manage complications for 40 plus patients daily. So every day she was doing this for more than 40 patients. That is, you've actually made it easier for the admissions team to tie your results to an action. Now, wow, that's brilliant. What did you use to do this? Using clinical assessment and enhanced monitoring strategies. Brilliant. That is a resume bullet, an excellent resume bullet. Now, you've been able to put this together. Let's see if this would be beneficial or this will be important for the role you are applying to or the scholarship that you are applying to. Let's look at. So to be able to audit your bullet, to make sure that your bullet is actually up to the standard, we created another framework we call the MASK framework. The MASK framework has 4 main parts. It has the metrics. So the metrics, for every bullet that has a metric, you score yourself 40%. So if your bullet has a metric, so the numbers, the percentages in your resume presents a tangible outcome that can be measured, an outcome that is measured, right? When you have that, then you score yourself 40%. Secondly, if you have action words, then you add an additional 15% to it. Action words, so the boosted, the spearheaded, the led, the rejuvenated, all the big action verbs, those are action words, and this can easily be Googled, right? So you pick the particular action word that fits the bullet you are building. If you have that in, you get an additional 15%. That makes it 55%. The next thing is stakeholders. Stakeholders. Now, let me put this across. At Kareru, we believe that for every good resume bullets, you should have a MASK score of 90 to 100%, a minimum of 90%. And the reason for the 90% is based on the stakeholders. I'll explain later. Now, stakeholders are the people that are impacted the action you took. In the earlier submission, we will look at it later, but you recall that the person collaborated with some people. So those people are her stakeholders, and she did the job for a particular group of people, the patients. Those are her stakeholders as well. So if you have these kind of people in there, so whether your boss, whether a lead researcher, or whether your study group, those are all stakeholders in the project that you undertook. So if you have some stakeholders in your bullets, you get an additional 10%. Now, finally, you should have keywords, and this is very critical. Keywords has to do with the skills, the qualifications, the tools, the technologies, the terminologies, the frameworks, the methods, all the things that are aligned to the particular thing you are applying to. So in this way, in this particular bullet that we are talking about, let's look at the bullet. So now the bullet will read, reduce maternal and fetal complications by 70% by collaborating with a cross-functional team to conduct antenatal screenings, stratify patients by race levels, and implement preventive measures to manage complications for 40+ daily patients using clinical assessment and monitoring strategies, right? So let's do some exercise here. I want people to type in what are the metrics in this bullet. So let's identify the metrics, the action words, the stakeholders, and the keywords.
Linda has just put hers in the chat, and she says, implement measures to manage complications for 40+ daily patients.
So those are the metrics. Okay. All right. Brilliant. Just because of time, let me just move on. So the 70% is a metric, right? 70% is a metric. Now, 40+ daily patient, that's another metric. So 40+ is another metric. So we have metrics in this bullet. Now let's look at action words. Reduced, collaborating, stratify, conducts, implements, manage. Those are all action words. Now let's look at the stakeholders. Remember, we said a cross-functional team, clinical team, they are stakeholders. Those are the people the person worked with. So that's the first stakeholder. Now we have patients. Those are stakeholders too. So in this bullet, we have our metrics, we have our action, we have our stakeholders. Let's look at keywords. Maternal, if you are not a healthcare professional, you don't know what it means. So it's a keyword. Fetal complications. I did not know what the heck that means because I'm not a healthcare professional. Antenatal screenings. What does that mean? That's a keyword for the healthcare industry, right? Patients, that's a keyword because no industry calls, some industry will say customers, others will say clients. In the environmental industry, especially when we work with EPA, they will say proponents. So those are keywords, right? Now, the other thing is clinical assessment. You don't know what clinical assessment means until you know what it means. When you are a healthcare professional, you will definitely know what that means. So all these things are keywords. So this particular bullet would be scored 100% because it has all the needed stuff. But however, let's assume this person did the work alone. They did not work with anybody. That means that the collaborating with a cross-functional team will be taken out. And it will go by conducting antenatal screenings, right? So that means the stakeholders bit, that 10% is out of the bullet. And that is, this bullet will be scored at 90%. That is why I said for every bullet, a very strong bullet, you should be scoring yourself between 90 to 100%. I hope this has been clear. Now, there are other rules. Remember, we spoke about the structure. Now, other rules has to do with the structure. So for your header, it should contain your name, your contact details, your location, your email, and your LinkedIn, probably. If you have a portfolio, you add that. So that is your header. We will look at, remember the CV I shared, we will look at a simple one later. Now, we have other sections. Because we are basing our arguments on academic CVs, so for any academic CV, you have your academic summary, which tells them who you are, whatever qualifications you have, what you are seeking to do with the scholarship or the program, right? What impact, what are your research interests, your focus areas for the program. You talk about them in your academic summary. You talk about your education section, your skills section, your teaching and research experience. So mostly scholarships are focused on research. However, there are a few that are not research-based. So you can also talk about your relevant work experience. But because most scholarships are focused on teaching and research experience, your experiences should be mostly research. If you don't have any research experience and you feel you have assessed the criteria and you qualify, you can talk about your relevant work experience that fits the criteria. And you can talk about projects that you've embarked on. You realize that we've not added referees or references. That is because references are not a requirement. You only provide them when they are required or they've been asked for. Otherwise, eliminate them. They are not part of the basic resume sections, right? And the number of pages, think about the relevance. Don't think about, oh, I've had 10 years of experience, so every single thing, I'm going to put it in my CV. No, think about relevance. So we recommend, it's not a rule, but recommendation. We recommend at most 2 pages. At most 2 pages. We recommend that, but it's not a rule. You can go more than 2 pages. There have been CVs that we've worked for that they were more than 2 pages. Recently, the person that I just used the bullet, her CV was 2.5 pages, and she actually got the scholarship, right? So at most 2 pages. Now, your bullets should be a maximum 2 lines. These are recommendations. There are no rules, but we feel to give you better context, to be able to present your bullet in a better structure. Don't make it too bulky. It makes reading sound so funny, right? Make it simple, precise, but it has to have the clarity, right? So 2 lines, we feel it's a very good bullet. And for every job role that you've been in, 4 to 6 bullets per row is actually very good. Sometimes you can go beyond the 6. Sometimes it can be below 4. But between 4 and 6 are ideal for every job role. That is why we said think relevance. Don't think all the experiences. No, think relevance. Even in the role that you are doing, you are applying for. Think about the bullets that are relevant for what you are applying to, the program you are applying to, the scholarship you are applying to, so that you can limit the number to 4 to 6 bullets. Now, references, as I said, eliminate this section unless they have been requested. So these are the other rules. Now, formatting rules. This is still on the structure. Remember, we said that they use less than 10 seconds. Recruiters use less than 10 seconds to decide whether they will read or not to read. And this is based on the structure. So the structure, the font type. Your font type, your choice of font should be clear. Your font shouldn't make it very difficult to read. At a glance, it should be very legible, very clear. You don't want to use, because you want to add too much color and too much design, you go ahead to design your, no. We recommend using either Cambria, Calibri, Arial, Helvetica. Sometimes you can use Times New Roman. The reason why I recommend these ones are because they make, like, you are able to put in much information, because these fonts are a bit smaller in size. So when you compare Cambria size 12 to Times New Roman, you realize that Cambria actually makes it a bit smaller. So you are able to put in more words, right? So that these are the reasons why, and they are very legible to read as well. Now, font size, for your headers, we recommend between 16 to 18 font size, and for the body, 10 to 12. Sometimes some scholarship will be very strict. Some schools will tell you your CV should be size 12. So you choose your size 12, and they will tell you they want a particular font. Please respect rules, obey instructions. It's part of the process. Alignment should always be justified. Always just aside your header, which has your name, that should be centered. All the other parts should be justified. And the header should be boldened to bring out the name so that it can be easily read. And the header color should be dark. We've seen a CV which had the header in pink. Please, you don't want to, I'm not saying pink is not a good color, but use a dark color, which makes it a bit simple and easy to read as well. I've seen a CV that had red, black, and blue. And this is a typical outlook for an academic resume. There is a template. So what we are saying is you have your full name and your details. You have your location, your phone number, your email address, your LinkedIn. If you have a portfolio, you add it, right? Now, you add your job title and say professional summary. But for academic, you say academic summary, right? Especially people in academia, people who have been doing research for a while. If you want to go in, you use an academic summary rather than a professional summary. We will show you the difference. That's why I said you should take a note of the first one. I'll show you the difference between an academic summary and a professional summary. Now, an academic summary, you talk about the role you are in, the experiences and all that. Now you insert a top achievement and you talk about your research interests. So what interest are you looking for research-wise? And what value do you want to bring or contribute to society after the scholarship? After the scholarship has ended, what value are you looking that the scholarship will help you bring to society? That is your value proposition, the last bullet. Now, if this was to be a professional summary, of course, you have the first bullet and the second bullet, but the third bullet will talk about your top skills, right? Your top skills that you have. And the last bullet will talk about your value proposition for the particular company you are applying to, right? So those are the difference. Your value proposition in this one will talk about the contribution you want to make to society after the scholarship, right? So you talk about your education section. Education, you have to speak about your GPA or those who went to KNUST, CWA. You talk about the name of the institution, the any academic honors you had, because they are very important for scholarships. Any academic honors, grants, awards that you got whilst in school. Maybe you won the overall best student, some points, you put it there. And relevant courses. So what courses have you studied in the past that are relevant to the program you are looking for a scholarship for? Put them there. They are very important as well. So you do all that for all the school education institutions you've attended. Online courses as well, add them if they are relevant. And you talk about your academic honors as a section. You put them there. Talk about your research publications or articles. You can put these ones in using the normal citation format. You can put articles there using the normal citation format, or you just put in the title and the link to the publication and the date that it was published, right? So you put them there. One other aspect is that sometimes your research and teaching experience, you put them as a job, a job section. So as you can see teaching and consulting experience. So this template will be shared with everyone, so you can have an appreciation of what I'm talking about. So you go through all this, and then you put together a CV. Of course, not all the sections will be relevant to you. Maybe you've not had any research or publications. You take that section out. Maybe you've not had any academic awards. You take that section out. Maybe you've not had any not-for-profit or leadership roles. You take that section out. So for any section that is not relevant to you, this is just a template. You have to tailor it to fit your requirements. Time will not permit it. I would have shown you a couple of different academic CVs that we've built over the past period. All of them are different in their own context, depending on what the requirement was and what the person has experience in, right? So projects, then you talk about speaker engagements or conferences that you've presented at. And then if references are needed, you add that. So this is the academic resume. You realize that it's different from the job resume. This one has a lot of sections as compared to the job resume. That is because academic requirements, scholarships need more inputs than applying for a job, right? So now let's look at statement of purpose quickly. A statement of purpose has some functions. Now, every statement of purpose, the reason behind it is that you are looking to demonstrate how fit you are for a program or a scholarship. That is why we say statement of purpose. How are you fit? How are you purposefully fit for that particular program that you're applying to and the scholarship, right? Secondly, it also shows why you deserve a particular scholarship over others. Let's say you all have put together a great CV. What will differentiate you now then would be your statement of purpose, your fit, your purpose, your drive for the scholarship, why you deserve that scholarship. That will go into your statement of purpose. Now, it also communicates your passion, your clarity of thought, and the long-term vision. For every scholarship you are applying to, the end goal is you want to have an impact. That's why. So what's the reason why? What is driving you to apply for this scholarship? And your ability to put together the statement of purpose, to iterate, to pour down your thinking into the document, it's really connoted in your statement of purpose. And your long-term vision, long-term career ambition, you talk about that as well. Now, let's look at questions that a statement of purpose answers. Remember, every statement of purpose is answering these questions. Trust, you don't want to miss out answering these questions. If your statement of purpose is not answering these questions, then it's not relevant to the scholarship committee. So one, what have I done that prepares me for this program or this scholarship? So that is your academic and professional background. So what have I studied that is important for the program or the scholarship? What work experiences, what research have I done in the past that is important for this scholarship? You should be able to answer this question. I'll show you a template, a sample statement of purpose, 2 different samples that answer different purposes, right? Now, why do I need to study this program in the first place? What sparked my interest or my passion? So that would be the part where you talk about your motivation, your interest. Maybe it was a childhood trauma, but please remember, there is a slight difference between a statement of purpose and a personal statement. A personal statement has a personal connotation to it. It has a personal feel. Maybe I'll show you one where the person spoke about her family issues that drove her to pursue a particular direction in life. And that is why they are actually going for that particular PhD program they are applying to, or a master's program they are applying to. And that was the reason why they were passionate for the program. That is what sparked their interest. So you answer that question, and then you talk about why this university, why this country even, or why this particular scholarship. Why are you applying for Chevening? What do you see in Chevening? What do you see in McBain McCall? Right? I have a friend I helped in 2021 who got the McCall scholarship at McGill University. He was actually the first person I helped to get a scholarship. It was really exciting. So why this country? So if you are applying for the McBain McCall, which happens in Canada, why Canada? Why that particular university? Why that particular scholarship scheme? You have to answer this question in your statement of purpose. And how does it align with your goals? So there could be a mission that the university is taking on, the particular program is taking on, the country is about, right? That aligns with your goals in life, right? So you should be able to align your goals with the program or scholarship requirements. Very important. Now, the next thing is, what do you plan to achieve after this degree? Or you just want a degree? No, you want something at the end of the degree. And how would this scholarship help you to achieve this? And that's your career plan. So short term, medium term, and long term. A lot of people just talk about short term and long term. Please add the medium term. So after school, 2 to 3 years, what do you seek to achieve? Medium term will do with 5 years. Long term will be after 5 years, 10 years. Where do you see yourself? Please, it doesn't mean you should. So career plan is actually the part where you can dream. It doesn't mean after school, that's what you are going to do. Sometimes you can pivot, but be realistic. This is where you set smart goals, right? So your career plan, every goal you put in there should be simple, should be measurable, should be achievable, should be realistic, and it should be time bound, right? That's why I said in the short term, you think about the 2-3 years, medium term, you think about 5 years, long term, you think about 10 years plus, right? And don't think too much. So whenever you are writing your statement of purpose, let me show you the trick. The trick is that you think about the end goal. Okay, I want to build a business consultancy that will help businesses to recruit from outside of Ghana. That is your end goal, right? Let's say you've seen that a lot of businesses are not able to recruit from outside Ghana really well, and that has affected blah, blah, blah. You've seen that as a problem. And that's the problem you want to solve. That is your long-term goal. Now break it down. Okay, medium term, what do I do? This is what I do. I have to work with experienced people to build their business acumen after school. Short term, I'll come and continue my job or whatever. Then you look at, so then what program should I study that is important today for my dream, right? Look at the scholarship. Are they funding that program? You go for it. So these are the questions that your SOP needs to answer. The last question is that, what unique perspective? Remember, in as much as you are seeing value in the scholarship committee has to see value in you. So what unique perspective or value will you bring to the institution or community? So if you want to join the Chevening Scholarship, what unique value? Remember, Chevening wants you to indicate that you have leadership, you can demonstrate your ability to create relationship and also lead with influence, right? So you need to tell Chevening that you can be able to do this. When they give after the scholarship, you will be able to do this. And that is your value proposition, the unique perspective that you are bringing on board. You get it? Possibly you have some links to let's say Bank of Ghana, and you want to go into financial analysis, let's say financial technology, fintech, study at one of UK's best universities. And because of your links, when you come, you can connect some Chevening alumni to build a multinational financial technology platform, which will allow free trade across Africa. Brilliant idea. You remember your relationship that you said you have at Bank of Ghana. You've purported it in here. You fixed it in here. And that is your unique perspective because of your network. You get it? And Chevening is looking for people who have these things. You can be able to do this in a small way and in a big way. Now, tailoring your SOP. as I have mentioned, when you are tailoring your SOP, you have to look at the particular scholarship. What's the mission of the scholarship? Is it merit-based? Is it need-based? Does it focus on leadership or research? And you mirror those values. You don't just wake up because you want to apply for Chevening. You just wake up and you go. Chevening is looking for leaders, people who are going to be future leaders. So if you think this is you, you go for Chevening. As I said, McCormack Bain is research focused. If you want to do research, go for that, right? So you look at the scholarship and their mission, then you go for the particular scholarship that fits. Example, as I gave, Chevening is looking for scholarship. It values leadership and also community impact. Now, program-specific contextualization, I spoke about it earlier, especially in the resume section. So you would recall that if you are able to put together a good academic resume, your SOP becomes so easy for you. Because at that place, you've been able to contextualize, bring out all the information you need for the content for the SOP, right? You understand the mission. Because if you didn't understand, you would not be able to tailor your CV in the first place. So you understand the mission. You know that you should be able to contextualize it to the requirements of the program, right? So the program-specific contextualization. So you mentioned faculty names, courses, or lab relevant to your interests, right? So I'll show you a sample that answers this. So let's say, example, Professor X work on so and so aligns with my thesis that I did in undergrad. Very important. Then keyword, include all the keywords. Remember mask framework, we said keywords are very essential. So when you are tailoring your SOP to use the keywords, the antenatal, they understand it, so use them. So use terms from the scholarship or program eligibility criteria. Now, let's look at these two. We can't look through, we can't read through, but when you look here, you realize that the first section talks about the program that the person wants to offer. And this was a medical professional that I helped. She's actually studying at this particular university, got a 50% scholarship, right? So when you look, this was her personal statement, her statement of purpose that she used for the application. So she speaks about how her qualification, why she wants to study the program, how the program will impact her, and what she also brings on board. Because she talks about her experience as a medical officer. Very important, right? Now, let's look at this other one. This other person applied. He's actually in Canada. The friend I told you got the McBain scholarship. He's actually studying resource engineering, environmental resource engineering. And this was a personal statement. So you realize that the personal statement is a bit longer than the statement of purpose. Mostly personal statement, as I said, it adds a bit of personal feel. So he talks about what got him to be interested in environmental science in the first place, childhood, being in basic school, hearing about environment and how we can manage waste and all that. He talks about all those things in his personal statement and how that influenced him to study environmental science and how he's been able to work as an environmental consultant over the years and all that, his qualifications, certifications that he's done and everything. And this got him a scholarship, right? Now, that is to say, if you want to build a good statement of purpose and a good academic CV, always think about the end goal and the academic or scholarship scheme that you are applying to. Thank you very much. Now I'll take some questions.